Like, ironically, this book of nightmares sounds like a freaking dream. I immediately saw this and I like screamed low-key in the store, which was really awkward, and people stared at me. Are they single? I would take that last name. Next up, I've got this lovely stack of witchy books. Apparently has been compared to like Knives Out and also The Haunting of Hill House. That just sounds so cool, which is great because who doesn't want to read a gay Casper story? Next up is a book that actually has been recommended to me by quite a few of you guys. Hello, spooky friends. Today I will be sharing with you a very large fall book haul. Spooky friends, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a super cozy book haul. These are all books that I have collected and that I've been really excited about reading for the months of like September, October, and November. So they're all going to be very atmospheric, super cozy, a little bit spooky maybe, and I am so excited to share these with you. Go ahead and grab something cozy and we will go ahead and get started. Oh, but before we start the book haul, I would like to take a couple of seconds to thank today's sponsor, which is Native. So today's video is being sponsored by Native and I am so excited to be working with them in this video. So I've recently discovered Native and it has quickly become my new favorite deodorant to use. I love that they are 100% plastic free and their packaging is so cute. It's non-sticky and also fast drying. And Native deodorant is also aluminum free and paraben free. It's vegan and it's also cruelty free as well. And they use familiar and simple ingredients like shea butter and coconut oil. I am absolutely obsessed with their scents as well. These are the three that actually were sent to me. The first one is lilac and white tea, and this particular scent feels very fresh and clean, which I really appreciate, and I really like that light lilac-y scent in the background as well. The next scent that I have is cucumber and mint, and this one smells so good. I feel like when you think of cucumber and mint, you don't necessarily get a scent, but more of like a vibe, and that vibe to me is like going to the spa, and I feel like that's sort of what this smells like. So if you like that very clean scent that feels a little bit more upscale, I think you're really gonna love this one. And then finally, I requested coconut and vanilla, and this is my favorite scent by far just because these are my favorite two scents in real life. I actually have a couple of different perfumes that smell exactly like this, and I love this because if I wear it, it's actually going to blend into the scents that I already have in my collection. I feel like it's very warm and it honestly smells so beautiful. And Native keeps you fresh all day long with their scents lasting for 72 hours. Native also has a really wide range of scents, which I love, including their new cabin collection for fall. This collection apparently is supposed to make you feel like you're at a cozy cabin in autumn. So think like apple picking and leaves and bonfires, things like that. And I think a couple of their scents actually include one that's called warm cider and then another one that has notes of cinnamon, and it just sounds so cute and like precious for fall. And normally if you would like 3 plastic-free deodorants, the price is about $39, but if you use my code, which is Roslyn, you can actually get all 3 for just $26, which is I think 33% off. And also if you would like to use my code, you can actually get 20% off of toothpaste and body wash as well. So if you're in the market for some really great deodorant that's also plastic free, I highly recommend checking out Native. And I think that's it. So now back to the cozy book haul. Okay, so as always, I like to split up my book hauls in age categories. So let's go ahead and start with Kids Lit. I have here middle grade and then YA. So let's go ahead and get started with those. The first book was actually very kindly sent to me by the publisher. Actually, Desi reached out to me on Instagram and she told me that she loved this book and she thought I would too. And then she asked if I would like to receive a copy from the publisher, which was so incredibly kind. And so I said, yes, please. And this is the book. It's called The Girl in White by Lindsay Curry. First of all, whenever one of my friends reads a book and says, I think that you would love this, I immediately get really excited. But like, I sort of feel like Desi is one of those people who I just associate with autumn, you know what I mean? And so the fact that she said, I think you're gonna love this because I love this. I've never read a more autumnal book. I am so sold. So it says on the back, this is a teeth chattering, eyes bulging, shuddering and shaking chills at the back of your neck ghost story, and I loved it. And that is a quote from R.L. Stine. This is following Mallory, and Mallory has just moved to a very haunted town apparently called Eastport. And the town is really, really obsessed with being haunted. They like love it. Mallory isn't quite so sure it's haunted, but then she starts to have all of these nightmares. And one day, I believe an old woman that she has been dreaming about, she meets in real life. I feel like this is supposed to be brimming with atmosphere. It sounds perfect. I love a good spooky ghost story. The cover is so beautiful. And honestly, the fact that Desi says that this is like perfect for autumn is all that I need to know to pick it up. Next up is a book that I've mentioned a couple of different times. It's one that's definitely on my September TBR, and that is The Marvelers, and this is by Daniela Clayton. This particular book is following Ella, and Ella is off to, I guess, this school called the Marvelers School, and it's in the clouds. It's literally a magic school set in the clouds, which I think sounds perfect, especially for like the autumn time. And she is, I think, the first conjurer to go to this magical school. At this magical school, the system is really, really cool because all of the magic practiced, I think, is like specifically tied to every single student's specific background and culture, which I absolutely love. While Ella is there at this magical school, apparently somebody breaks out of a magical prison, and they say that they broke out with the help of a conjurer, and now Ella is, I think, like under suspicion, and she has to clear her name. It sounds so cozy and so charming and so whimsical for this time of year. So I really, really can't wait to read it. Next up is a book that actually has been recommended to me by quite a few of you guys. I purchased this randomly before people started recommending it to me. I saw this book at my local bookstore and it looked so cozy and so atmospheric that it immediately caught my attention, and that is Ravenfall by Kaylin Josephson. And like, please, we have to take a minute. The cover literally looks perfect for spooky season. It says, one magical inn, two kids with supernatural powers, and an ancient Celtic creature trying to destroy their world by Halloween night. Doesn't that sound so perfect? Clearly this is going on my like spooky TBR, but I don't know if I'll be able to wait because I really want to devour it right now. You have to listen to the synopsis. I try really hard to not read too many, but this one is so good. It says 13-year-old Annabella has never been normal, not even by her psychic family's standards. Each generation, they use their abilities to help run the Ravenfall Inn, a sprawling magical B&B at the crossroads of the human world and the other world. But it's hard to contribute when your only power is foreseeing death. So when 14-year-old Colin Pierce arrives at Ravenfall searching for his missing older brother and the supernatural creature who killed their parents, Anna jumps at the chance to help. But the mysteries tied to Colin go much deeper than either expected. This sounds so incredible. I love that this is going to be happening at a spooky inn. I love that there's going to be ghosts. It feels so cozy and atmospheric already. And like, it just seems like it's going to be really magical for this time of year. I know I need to put my coffee down, but it's so cold today that I just keep wanting to like hold it in my hands. So the next book was actually very, very, very kindly sent to me by the author. I've been following her for such a long time. She's actually an author tuber, and I have followed her entire journey following this particular book. So I've been invested and excited about this book for, oh my gosh, well over a year, because I've been following Lindsay for such a long time. I will link her channel down below, by the way, if you're interested. Highly recommend her because like she has the perfect spooky autumnal like channel as well. She is just like a delight to watch. She really, really is. But this is being released by Scholastic, I think October 18th, if I'm not mistaken. And it's one of my most highly anticipated book releases of the entire year. And that is The Glass Witch by Lindsay Puckett. So we are following Adelaide Good, and Adelaide Good has never felt quite good enough. She apparently is like the weakest witch in her family in a really, really long time. And she has been dropped off at this place called Cranberry Hollow for several months, where she has to compete in a pageant. But that's actually not the worst of her problems. She actually has to beat a curse. And on top of all of that, the curse has started to turn her bones into glass. So now she has to try to win this pageant, reverse the curse, and stop her bones from turning into more glass. It sounds so cute. It sounds really quirky. It sounds really whimsical. It sounds very, very magical. And I have such high like hopes for this book. This is a book that I immediately really want to devour. I'm saving it for a vlog actually, but I cannot wait to read this. I highly recommend checking it out. I highly recommend pre-ordering it. I'm just so excited. Next up is a book that has been out for quite a while, but it's just now caught my attention, and it's called Nightmares. And this has been co-written by Jason Segel and Kristen Miller. Again, it was a little bit of like a cover, not buy necessarily, but like it grabbed my attention because it looks so spooky and so perfect for Halloween. And I love this because like, look at the little chapter headings and all of the illustrations and stuff. That attention to detail as a reader, like I always really appreciate, and it makes me feel even more set in the story. So this book is following Charlie, and Charlie's father has just remarried a woman that he is absolutely convinced is actually secretly a witch. On top of that, now they have moved into her very creepy Gothic mansion, which he thinks may or may not be haunted. And since moving into this creepy purple mansion, apparently he has been having the worst night's sleep. He is plagued by nightmare after nightmare. But then apparently one of his nightmares actually springs to life, and he then has to deal with the consequences. It just sounds amazing. Like, ironically, this book of nightmares sounds like a freaking dream. Next up is a book that I have mentioned in my highly anticipated fall releases, and that is The Curse on Spectacle Key, and this is by Chantal Acevedo. This book is following Frank, and Frank's family used to move around a lot, but they have decided to permanently settle into this lighthouse apparently on this little island. However, once they move in, apparently it seems to be a little bit cursed and potentially haunted. This is giving me like big Casper the Friendly Ghost vibes, except maybe reversed. I am so excited about it. You guys know how much I love a good ghost story. I actually did a vlog like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where all I did was read ghost stories, and like I checked out a haunted hotel. And to this day, I've been doing YouTube for like 4 years. To this day, that is my favorite video I have ever done and probably will ever do. I love ghost stories so much. And as soon as I heard about the premise of this, I got so extremely excited. Okay, so this next book, I have to tell you, is one that I will absolutely be reading like very soon. And that is Disney's freaking Hocus Pocus. You guys, we have to take a second to discuss this. Like, I am so obsessed with Halloween Town and Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus 2 is coming out. I immediately saw this and I like screamed low key in the store, which was really awkward, and people stared at me. It's fine, it happens all the time. This is kind of giving me like Harry Potter illustrated editions vibes. I feel like the illustrations in this look so beautiful. Take a second for the back. Look at this. And this is the illustrated edition basically of Hocus Pocus, which apparently was turned into a book, and it follows the movie very closely. So if you're familiar with the movie, you'll be very familiar with the story. It's following Max and his little sister Danny, who just moved to Salem, Massachusetts, and while they are there, Max has a little bit of a crush on a girl named Allison, and the three of them go out on Halloween night and accidentally wake up the Sanderson sisters, who are these three witches who have been like asleep basically until somebody can wake them up again. And now that they're awake, they need to suck the lives out of the children of Salem. And this one looks so cool because look, on just like a regular page, it looks like parchment paper almost. I don't know if you can see that. And there's like old-fashioned lettering and these beautiful little illustrations, but also there are full color illustrations in this as well. Okay, so here's one of Danny. This is amazing. This is so freaking cool. Look at this one. Oh my gosh, look at this. This is Max and Danny, like right before they get Allison. I am thrilled. Who illustrated this? Because it's so beautiful. Okay, this is illustrated by Gris Grimley. Amazing name. I don't know if that's the real name or not, but Grimley, amazing. Are they single? I would take that last name. I'm very excited to read this. I can't wait. I love Hocus Pocus. I know I already know the story, but like who cares? I would love to consume this as a book as well. So yeah, there's that one. Okay, next, technically I have a lot of books here, but I'm only gonna tell you about the first one. It is a series, and the series is a series of unfortunate events. I'm just gonna hold up this one because it's orange, which is fitting for a fall book haul. But yeah, I won't tell you about this one. I will tell you about the series. So this series is by Lemony Snicket. It is a middle grade series. And this is a series that was very, very popular when I was growing up, but I never actually read it. And now that I'm an adult, I feel like I've missed out. And so this autumn, I'm going to be trying to read every single book in the series. The series itself is following 3 orphans. They are the Baudelaire orphans. They move in with Count Olaf, who I guess is like a very distant uncle once removed or something like that. But Count Olaf is a bad guy and he just wants their enormous fortune any way he can get it. If that means that he's going to trick them or manipulate them or even murder them, he's going to do that to get their large fortune. This is a book that is dripping with like dry humor and sarcasm and very, very dark humor too. So I'm really, really excited to read the entirety of this. I think I'm going to attempt to vlog my experience as well. So yeah, there is that. And those are all of the middle grade books that I have. So now let's go ahead and move on to the short stack of YAs. The first one is The Society for Soulless Girls, and this is by Laura Stephen. So this particular book is following Alice and Lottie, and they both attend a university that is considered haunted. Apparently, this is also a retelling of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. While they are there, they are trying to uncover what really happened years and years ago when the university was first shut down due to a string of like unexplained deaths. Next up is a book that again was on my most highly anticipated like book list. It's called Belladonna, and this is by Adeline Grace. So this book actually surprisingly is giving me a series of unfortunate events vibes a little bit. We're following Signa, and Signa has been orphaned as a baby, and she's been passed around by a string of guardians who are all way more interested in her enormous fortune than actually protecting her, but they all meet untimely deaths that are unexplained. Then she goes to move in with her new family, the Hawthorns, and I suppose like the main person, like the father of the Hawthorns, is really sad because his wife has tragically passed away. And to help her new family, I think Signa tries to contact her from the dead. They might potentially like hold a seance or something, and the wife then says that she has been poisoned and murdered. And so now Signa has to try to track down who killed the mom. Next up, we've got a Kate Alice Marshall book. I love Kate Alice Marshall. I read Rules for Vanishing years ago for Spookathon, and it became one of my favorite books like of all time as far as like thrillers and spooky books are concerned. And so when I heard that she was coming out with a book that apparently has been compared to like Knives Out and also The Haunting of Hill House, I was immediately sold. So this is These Fleeting Shadows, again by Kate Alice Marshall, and it says on the bottom here, I promise to tell the truth, but first I have to lie. Helen Vaughn doesn't know why she and her mother have left their ancestral home at Harrowstone Hall called Harrow, or why they haven't spoken to their extended family since. So when her grandfather dies, she's shocked to learn that he has left her everything, the house, the grounds, and the money all to her. The inheritance comes with one condition. She must stay on the grounds of Harrow for 1 full year or she'll be left with nothing. And apparently the house is like much more sinister when she gets there. It's built a little bit like a labyrinth. And on top of that, she has been dreaming of this place since she was a little girl. And it just sounds so spooky. I love books that center around houses, hotels, buildings. I think that those are some of my very favorite storylines because I feel like houses can hold so many like memories of the past. So I'm so excited to see what Kate Alice Marshall does with this. I think it's gonna be incredible. And again, like I am definitely getting those Knives Out vibes, which I can't wait to devour. And then the final one is a ghost story, of course, and that is going to be I Am the Ghost in Your House, and this is by Mar Romasco Moore. Let's take a second. Look at how spooky this is. This is literally like the perfect cover. This book is following Pi, and Pi apparently is a ghost and she lives with her mom, and they travel all across America. Now her mom has actually told Pi, you can choose where we go next, and then the flap says, and Pi knows exactly where she wants to go. Pittsburgh, where she fell in love with a girl she plans to find once again. And this time she will reveal herself. Only how can anyone love an invisible girl? Are you joking me? The Casper vibes in this? immaculate, which is great because who doesn't want to read a gay Casper story? That's it for all my kids lit. Let's go ahead and move on to the spooky adult section. Okay, so to start with, I have 3 romances and they all have like very spooky, perfect vibes for the season. The first one is Not the Witch You Wed, and this is by April Asher. It looks so freaking cute. Oh my gosh. This book is following Violet and Lincoln. Violet is a witch and Lincoln is a werewolf. Anyways, and Violet actually cannot stand Lincoln because he broke her heart when she was a teenager. However, they both decide that they are going to team up together because their supernatural laws dictate that they both need to find like their love match. And so they decide to fake their love match with each other so that they can buy them both like some time to find the right one. And while they are fake dating, they catch feelings. Like Bella and Jacob could never. Next up, we have a book that I have found from so many people's videos this year, and I am so excited to read, and that is The Dead Romantics, and this is by Ashley Poston. This book is following Florence, and Florence apparently has a family who runs, I think, a funeral parlor at home. She is a ghostwriter. She actually asks her editor to give her like an extension on this romance that she is writing, but he says no, and she ends up going home anyways because her father has just passed away. However, once she is at her family home, she sees her editor, but not in the flesh. Oh no, he is now a ghost. It just sounds so cool. Again, like an adult version of like Casper. I love Casper. You guys, I love Casper. And then the final like adult romance that I have here is this one. It's called The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, and this is by Megan Banner. Basically, we're talking about a supernatural, creepy, perfect for autumn retelling of You've Got Mail, okay? Like, say less. Next up, I've got this lovely stack of witchy books. The first one is In the Company of Witches, and this is by Orly Wallace. This is a cozy mystery, I believe, and it's giving me like very big practical magic vibes. Actually, quite a few books on this list are giving me practical magic vibes. This one in particular feels really, really charming. This book is following Bryn, and Bryn lives with her 2 aunts, and they are the Warren witches who run this bed and breakfast. And one day, unfortunately, there is a woman who seems to be murdered, basically like in their inn, and now the police suspect that it's one of the aunts who did it, and so Bryn has to clear the aunts' names and find out what really happened to the inn's guest who was murdered. I think her name is like Constance. It sounds very, very cozy and atmospheric. I've just started this, and I have to say, like, it feels perfect for this time of year. If you're a person who loves cozy mysteries, you might want to check this out. Next up is Small Town Big Magic, and this is by Hazel Beck. So this book is following Emerson, and Emerson has what seems to be the perfect idyllic life. She's very, very content working at this independent bookstore, and she loves her group of friends, but one day all of that is completely thrown into chaos when she is attacked by what can only be described as monsters, and she stops them with what can only be described as magic. But monsters don't actually exist, right? And neither does magic, does it? Next up is a book that has been on everyone's radar, mine included, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and this is by Sangu Mandana. This book sounds like it's brimming with charm. Like, I think that this is going to be such a cozy book, and I am so excited to read this. We're following Micah, and in this world, witches apparently cannot be together because when they are together, they actually expand the magic around them, and it makes it really, really unstable. Micah isolates herself from other witches. She herself is a witch. She actually has like a fake internet account where she pretends to be a witch doing magic. One day she's actually contacted by someone who wants her to help them teach 3 different charges who are trying to learn witchcraft. I think they're all little kids, and she decides that she's going to accept and help them. When she goes there though, she gets entangled up into all of these different people's lives, including Jamie, who is a grumpy librarian. I am all about a romance between a grumpy librarian and a witch, okay? Next up is a book that I think I found from Darling Desi's channel, and it is called Cackle, and this is by Rachel Harrison. This book is following Annie, who after a very, very bad breakup decides to move to a different city and start like a new life. And while she is there, she bumps into a woman named Sophie. Sophie befriends her and starts to kind of like help Annie live more for herself and define her own boundaries and what she wants in life. But the people in this town actually warn Annie to not get too close to Sophie because Sophie is a witch. And then the next one is, I think, like considered horror possibly, and it seems scary, but it also seems really, really cool, and that is Slew Foot, A Tale of Bewitchery by Brom. And look at this. Look at this. I mean, this literally looks like I'm holding a spell book or something. It looks so cool. This is also just such a beautiful book. Like, the end papers are gorgeous. And then there's also full color illustrations. Look at that. Amazing. Can you see that? That is so cool. This says, Connecticut, 1666. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him Slew Foot, demon, devil. To Abitha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together, they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. Next up are two books that were very kindly sent to me by Book of the Month, and they are Killers of a Certain Age, as well as Other Birds. This one is by Sarah Addison Allen, and this particular one is by Deanna Rayborn. Okay, so let's start with this one. We're following a group of women who are best friends, and they were all assassins when they were younger, but now I think they are in retirement and they've all gone on vacation together. And once they're there, they are targeted by someone, and they think it's someone on the inside, like somebody who used to work with them. And so now this group of women actually has to track down who is trying to target them and target them first. And Other Birds is following Zoe. Zoe actually goes back, I think, to her mom's hometown when her mother passes away, and she's trying to sort through all of her mother's old things after her death. And in the process, she ends up becoming very entangled in all of the people's lives, including, I think, 1 or 2 ghosts. This is a tale that apparently is brimming with lots of magic and whimsy, and it's got a couple of different speculative elements to it. I'm very excited to read this. I've heard nothing but good things about Sarah Addison Allen's work, specifically garden spells. So I don't really know a lot going into this, but I think it's going to be really lovely. Next up, we have another murder mystery, and this one is Shady Hollow, and this is by Juno Black. So all I know about this book, you guys, is that this is following Vera, and Vera is a fox who is trying to solve a local murder. But listen, this is what I would define as like a cozy murder mystery. I love foxes so much. I am so excited to read this. I don't know anything else about it, but I have heard excellent things about it, and it's giving me like very, very cozy atmospheric vibes already. Next up is a book that is literary fiction, and this is a book that has been recommended to me by a couple of my subscribers, and it's called When Women Were Dragons, and this is by Kelly Barnhill. Nuh-uh. Oh my God. I didn't know this was by Kelly Barnhill. This is by the girl who wrote The Girl Who Drank the Moon, but also the short story collection Dreadful Young Ladies, which I'm about to haul. I love her writing. Well, this is a good day. It says here, When Women Were Dragons exposes a world that wants to keep women small, their lives and their prospects, and examines what happens when they rise in mass and take the space up that they deserve. We're following our main protagonist named Alex, and Alex lives in a world where there was this great massive event where women just randomly sprouted wings and scales and became dragons and then flied off. And some women stayed behind and they stayed as like mothers, and then others became dragons, and Alex is trying to figure out why some of them became dragons and others didn't. Next up is my baby. That's right, I've got Babel by R.F. Kuang, and just a little heads up, I've been reading this and it is amazing, okay? It is so worth the hype so far. I cannot put this book down. We're following Robin Swift in 1828, and he goes to Babel, which is this university. And this takes place in a world that's sort of like ours, but in this world there is an understanding that magic exists. And while he is at Babel, he's essentially learning how to translate languages as well as how to create magic. And it's incredible because it's a dark academia that is deconstructing and also exploring colonization with an incredible diverse cast. It is so good so far. I cannot put it down. R.F. Kuang's writing is like peak. If you are looking for the ultimate dark academia book to consume this autumn, this is it. And I haven't even finished it, and I already know that. Next up is a book that I actually purchased when I was researching books that are like TV series. And this is a book that I found from a Reddit post that said that this book's vibes were very similar to the Umbrella Academy, and it's called Spoonbenders, and this is by Daryl Gregory. This particular book is following a family that apparently all has like weird supernatural abilities. Think less magic and more sci-fi. However, one day out of nowhere, all of the family members' abilities completely go away. And they were kind of famous initially for these abilities, but now they've gone into hiding. However, one day, I think like the mafia and the FBI try to track them down and take down the family, and they have to somehow band together and reenact their abilities to fight back and like survive, essentially. It sounds so cool. This is apparently also really, really funny, which I love. I'm very excited to read this. I think this will be great also for the autumn season. It sounds quirky and really unique, but also I loved the Umbrella Academy. So if it's anything like that, I think I'm gonna love this. Next up, we have a book that I actually purchased because I saw this on Kayla's channel. She was exploring like all of the anthologies that she has, and that is Dreadful Young Ladies, and this is by Kelly Barnhill. I have only read, I think, the first 2 or 3 short stories in this collection, but I have to tell you, like, I'm obsessed with it. I love it so much, and I will be continuing to read it this autumn. It's a collection of short stories, and they all have magical elements. I don't know exactly how much I would consider fantasy and how much I would consider speculative fiction. My favorite story so far is actually about a ghost. But yeah, these are just adult short stories that have little bits of magic and whimsy in them. They're kind of dark, but I'm really, really enjoying my time reading this. Kelly Barnhill is just so good at writing. Next up is a book that I've been seeing everywhere, and it's giving me all the spooky, scary vibes that I want this autumn, and that is The Book Eaters, and this is by Sun Yi Dean. I'm really excited about this because the premise sounds really, really interesting. This is following a family, and apparently they sustain themselves not with food, but with words. They literally eat books. It says, out on the Yorkshire moors lives a secret line of people for whom books are food. Devon is part of the family, an old and reclusive clan of book eaters. Her brothers grew up feasting on stories of valor and adventure, and Devon, like all other book eater women, was raised on a carefully curated diet of fairy tales and cautionary stories. But real life doesn't always come with happy endings, as Devon learns when her son is born with a rare and darker kind of hunger, not for books, but for human minds. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. The next book I have here is the book that I've been trying to find for such a long time. I wanted to purchase this when it was, I think, self-published, but then it was picked up, I want to say by, oh no, Titan Books. Okay, by Titan Books, and I've been very excited to read it. And that is Eric LaRocca's Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. And this is a little bit of like a short, I think, novella. It has other stories in it, so it's not just that first book, but it's also a couple of, I think, newer stories as well. And it sounds so creepy. It also like took Book Talk by storm, I think last year or 2 years ago, and it's become this really, really huge selling self-published book. All I know about the first story is that it's following 2 women who find each other on the internet, I think like in a chat room, and they become obsessed with each other to the point where things turn deadly. Next up is Nettle and Bone, and this is by T. Kingfisher. This is a book that I've seen on so many different people's like videos who love fantasy. I think I first heard of this from Riley Marie, I want to say. This is following Mara, and Mara wants to save her sister. Apparently her sister has been married off to a very abusive prince, and so she tries to seek help, but in order to receive the help she needs, she has to do 3 impossible tasks, and the tasks sound wild. The first one, I think, yeah, is she needs to build a dog out of bones. Amazing, like Tim Burton vibes right there. Sew a cloak of nettles and then capture moonlight in a jar. She's also apparently like aided by an ex-knight, a reluctant fairy godmother, an enigmatic grave witch, and her foul familiar. It sounds amazing. It sounds kind of like Shauna Maguire vibes just a little bit, as well as like some very twisted fairy tale vibes. I'm very excited to read this. It's short. It's definitely going to be on my spooky TBR this year. And if you love fantasy, you might want to pick this up. Next is a book that, again, I purchased this summer, and I am very excited to read this, even though she's thick, okay? And that is Ordinary Monsters, and this is by J.M. Miro. Look at this book. You know it's gonna be a good book when it's this size, in my opinion. So this book is following two children who I think are being like haunted by a shadowy figure, as well as a boy named Charlie who is 16 who can heal himself whether he wants to or not. And all three are escorted by a detective, I guess, to a place where they can find safety, but they're basically trying to outrun monsters, I wanna say. Next up, we've got A Dreadful Splendor, and this is by B.R. Myers, and I love the Gothic vibes that are coming off of this book. We're following Genevieve, and Genevieve is actually just about to be hung because she is a spiritualist who's kind of like a fake, right? So she pretends that she can see ghosts, and she pretends to conjure up spirits, but she has been found out that she is lying. However, she's actually saved from getting hung by a man, I think named Mr. Pemberton, who has just lost his wife. He asks if she can actually connect and get his wife back so that they can like speak together or something. Genevieve decides to take this so that she doesn't die, and she's going to try to convince Mr. Pemberton that she's not a fake, even though she is. And I think, you guys, that is it. Those are all of the books that I have for spooky season. I'm very, very excited. I hope you enjoyed this cozy book haul, and I would love to know, are there any books on your radar that you would like to pick up in the upcoming months? There's quite a few actually that I want to read in October, and then a couple that are being released out a little bit later. I love this time of year so much. As a reader, this is my favorite time to buy books and also consume books, and all of my favorite releases are always released in the later half of the year because of spooky season. If you have any books that you would like to let me know about that you're excited about or that are releasing soon, please let me know down below in the comments. And if you have made it to this part of the video, please leave me the fox emoji. I love foxes. And also, once again, thank you so much to Native for sponsoring today's video. Again, I highly recommend checking them out. All of the links will be down below in the description, and you can also use my code Rosalyn to get your very first 3 deodorants for only $26. And that is it, my spooky friends. So until next time, you guys, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will speak to you very soon. Stay spooky.